How's it going, everybody, and welcome to Forged in Place. My name is Mareko Maumasi of Maumasi Fire Arts, and I am very excited to present to you guys the very first project of this series. It is a blacksmith's bench knife. It is a very simple knife. It's going to have a nice flared belly for comfort. It's going to be forged close to dimension, so all you have to do is sharpen it at the end. We are going to be making this first one out of a scrap piece of steel that's just been laying around my shop for a while. So instead of letting this go to waste, we're going to make a knife out of it. Let's hit it. Okay, so the material we're starting with is this little scrap piece of 8670. This was a larger bar, a longer bar that I cut some stock removal blades out of. This originally was a sawmill blade from a lumber mill down in Alabama, a big circular saw. First thing I'm going to do is trim off this little bit, just like a couple inches off the end, because this little fiddly pointy bit is just, I don't need any of that. This is going to eventually become the tang of the handle down there, and so and then the rest of this will become the blade. So yeah, I'm going to get trimming this down, and then we'll get this in the forge. The forge is heating up. It's getting pretty nice and hot in there. It should be about ready for this. So, before you go into the fire, you always want to have a plan. This is kind of an irregular shape to be working with, right? So the first thing I want to do before I start isolating the tang material from what will become the blade, I want to start forging this down a little bit and make this more of kind of like a regular shape, a more reasonable shape to work with. So I'm going to put it in the steel, put it in the fire, and then the first thing I'm going to do is kind of hit it on the anvil to shove this down and kind of pull this point out a little bit. So, into the fire this goes. We got the piece in there. I always put a little piece of paper in there, especially after I just started, just to make sure, because sometimes after you start the forge, it doesn't sometimes want to stay lit, and so this helps keep a nice little flame in there. Anyways, so I don't have the whole piece in there. I have what will become the tang kind of hanging on a brick. So because I just want to focus on kind of like that front part. Next thing I'm going to do is grab it back out of there and start hammering on it. When do you know when to pull the steel out of the forge? So when you look in there, you can see that top corner. That left corner is starting to match the temperature of the forge. So I'm probably actually going to flip that over to help the piece of steel heat a little bit more evenly. But the rest of it's getting to a decent temperature, and it's not too crazy hot in there. It looks like it's insanely hot, but right now it's probably, that corner is probably hovering around 1800 degrees or so. 1800 to a couple thousand degrees. And that is a good forging range for this steel. You don't want to let it get too much hotter than that because it'll start deteriorating. So I'm going to flip it over and even it out. Okay, I flipped it over, and you can see already that top corner that was super hot, that's now on the right, is cooled down. That left corner is now kind of the hotter side. But it has helped even out the temperature. If you look at that piece, other than that corner, it's pretty even temperature across the piece of steel. Another reason it just dawned on me that I leave that little bit of the tang hanging on the brick is just so it's easier to grab. Again, I'm not really working that area, so it doesn't need to be hot. And it's sitting on the brick like that, it makes it easier to grab versus the whole thing being in the forge. One, and unnecessarily heating up, but two, making it kind of difficult to fish back out of the forge. Okay, I'm about to grab this piece out. My hammer that I'm working with is what's called a dog head hammer. This was made by my friend Samuel Cobb at Hilltop Forge. Really good guy, very talented, great hammers. I love this. This is my go-to hammer right here. All right, here we go. Alright, so you can see I've started pushing that corner in. So you notice I only did like a couple hits on the top and then I turn it flat. The reason is because it starts kind of cupping and curving across the height of the thing, and you don't want that to get too far away from you or it's going to be a real pain to straighten that back out. So you just kind of check it. Hit it a couple times, check it, flat it. Hit it a couple times, check it, flat it. You want to work kind of evenly on both sides. Back to the foot. Okay, another quick tip. Eye protection is a good idea. Forge scale grows on the outside of that steel as it's really hot at high temperatures. And the last thing you want is a piece of that bouncing into your eye. So everything you can do to help prevent getting that stuff in your eye, the better. So it's up to temp. The reason I changed the angle is so that you can see as I start hitting it, you'll start seeing that piece of steel start to cup. And that is why I turn it flat and try to straighten it out. So here we go. Alright, so again, nice and straight after we're all done. Those last few hits you see me doing are just light taps. They might sound loud and they might sound hard, but they're what are called planishing blows. And you can see the surface out there at the tip where I've been hitting it. It's kind of glossy, shiny. There you go. There it is. You don't see that much forge scale built off on it versus back here. You see it's all kind of like cruddy and craggy. That's where more forge scale has been allowed to build up. It hasn't been planished or kind of knocked off. So we're getting there. Kind of taking my sweet time, but the goal is to get this little bump out so this is a nice flowing line straight down to the tip. And then I'm going to start working to isolate the blade material from the tank. Okay, I'm about to pull it out of the fire. Something I was just kind of thinking about because I was like, this is taking a long time for me to just form the point. But it is kind of awkward because it's an irregular piece of steel. But something I can also do, so right now I've just been working from the spine side, trying to shove that point down. But now that it's getting close, I can actually start working from the belly side, or what would become the cutting edge side of the knife, to start forming that point. So I think on this first tee, I'm going to hit on the spine to drive that down a little bit more, and then I'm going to flip it over and hit on the belly side. So here we go. I always try to finish with the blade material straight. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be, I really want it to be as straight as possible because from my experience, I've had bad experiences of just being like, oh, I can fix that later. It's such a nightmare and a pain to fix later. It's better to just keep up with it as you go along, and especially as it gets colder and it's losing heat you don't hit it as hard. You hit it just little light tapping blows. Again, it sounds loud probably, but they're just gentle little taps to just kind of like gently massage things back to straight. So this is pretty good. I got a pretty serious hump on this side still, so I'm gonna work now to narrow the material up. So I'm really gonna start driving it. I got my point that I want, so now I'm gonna narrow the material up. Okay, again, we're working on the hump. I'm gonna pull that hump down and narrow up the blade material a little bit. Right now it's about 1.25 inches wide. I want it to be a little bit closer to about 1 inch, or maybe even 7/8 of an inch. All right. You guys don't have a scale, but to me, this looks like it's just under an inch. Whew, struggling to talk right now. All right, it looks like a big, kind of dopey looking, like whale shape or something, or like a slug. This next seat, I'm gonna do a little bit more work to kind of refine the tip now that I've narrowed it up some here. Look, decently straight. It's not perfect, but it's pretty decent. And it's going to help save a lot of heartache and stress down the road. Okay, tip refinement. Well, you can see it's got a long, like gentle curve to it, but overall it's mostly straight. If I want to straighten that, hit it a couple times, a couple taps, and it's looking pretty good. Thank you all for joining me for this episode. In the next episode, we start isolating the tang, start drawing and forging that out. If you have any questions about anything you saw in this video, ask questions down below in the comments. And as always, if you liked and enjoyed this video and you don't want to miss out on future ones, make sure to like it and subscribe.